Hello students, I am Pika sir, and today I am going to upload this video lessons regarding the chapter 3 orders. Okay, the 3 orders. Theme 6 and class 11. Okay, so let's start the chapter. So, in this chapter, we'll get to know about the meaning of the feudalism. Like the term feudalism, is used by the historian to describe the economicals, legals, and politicals and social relationship. Actually, it was existed in the European society during the medieval era. And as per the world history, medieval era means in Europe 6 to 9 centuries, more or less. And this term is derived from the German word feud. Okay, it means a piece of land. So it refers that during the medieval France and later on in the England and the Italy, this feudalism system originated. And economical sense, feudalism refers to that kind of agricultural productions which is based on the relationship between lords and the peasants. So in this way, different kind of concept originated in the latter Europe. And even due to the socio-economic and political changes, Western European society, that means the England, France, and Italy, these three orders originated. The concept of the three orders originated between from 9 to 16th centuries. Then Empire, as we all know, that fallen down, and many groups of the Germanic, Nordic Germanic tribes, occupied the regions of the Italy, Spain, France. Okay, so in that way, from them, these three orders, the concept of the three orders originated, and Christian priests, landowners or peasants. Okay, they were the part of these three orders. Followed. Now we'll get to know that how the country, the France came. Actually, the previous name of the France was Gaul, and it was the occupied province of the Roman Empire. But that the Franks, there was a tribe belonged to the Germany. They came here, fought against the original inhabitant of the Gaul. Then from the 6th century onwards, this region was ruled by the Frankish king. So in that way, this country came to be known as a France. Understood? Okay. Now we'll as you know that three order means first state, second state, third state. It is a relationship between the agricultural production and the peasants. Okay, so first state is belong to the clergy, second state belong to the nobility, as you all know, and the third state belong to the peasants or peasantry. So first we will get to know about the first state, though in your book has given the second state first, the second state, the second order. So clergy. Actually, church was a very powerful institution in that time, and right now also. Even they had their own laws, and they owned the land, given it by the rulers. Even they could levy the taxes. So that's why it became very very powerful institution, and they didn't depend on the kings. Okay, so head of the Western Church was the Pope. Okay, he lived in the Rome, and all the Christians in the Europe, were guided by the bishops and the clerics. Okay, so these bishops and clerics, were known, and definitely Pope were known as the clergy. Okay, and some, even they constituted the first order. And every villages had their own church where people assemble for a particular time, especially for the in the Sunday for the prayers. Okay, and everyone can join there for the assembly or the prayer, but there was a rule that everyone couldn't be the monk, because there was some kind of rules and regulation. Even serf were banned because they were physically challenged. Women couldn't become, that the priest, and men who became the priest couldn't marry. So there are several kind of rules. So some important ceremonies conducted by the church in that time. Okay, and they copied these kind of rituals or the customs for the feudal lives. Okay, now question is that who could be the monk? So apart from the church, devoted Christians, had different kind of organizations. So they were deeply religious and they choose to live in the isolated life. And if you want to compare with the clerics, they live among the, clerics live among the peoples and in the towns and villages. Okay, they lived in the religious communities. Okay, they called abbeys or the monasteries. Well, and even these monks, were living in a remote area, far from the human habitations. Okay, and some kind of they were living in the and this area were known as the monastery. So and some very important monastery in that time in Italy was Saint Benedict in the year of 529. Okay, or the Cluny monastery in Burgundy 910. Okay, even the monk also took the vows. Rest of their life they spent their time with the prayers and study, manual labors like the farmings. Okay, their life was open to both for the men and women. Men was known as a monk and women was known as a nun. So they became they became the community that they separated abbeys for the men and women. From small communities or 10 to 20 men or women, monasteries grew to communities open to several hundreds, because day by day its popularity was increasing. And large buildings and landed estate we have found later on at the school or colleges, hospitals, even for the development of the art they also contributed. So in this way, that the cultures of the monks also they developed in that time. Even by the 14th century, there was a kind of uncertainty we have seen about the values and purpose of the monasteries, because in England, Langland's poem. There is a poet. He written down the poem that he considered the essay and luxurious life, because monks try to live luxurious life. But the initial initiative was taken by the monk. They were living in a remote area or the very far from the human habitation. But that was not true, because later on it became very, you can say they were living in a luxurious life with the donation or something like that. So in this way their culture was looking like that. Followed. So this is this all about that, the first state. Okay, and what was the relation between the church and the society? Actually, though European become Christian, but some of their own belief in magic, folk traditions, they also continued. When Christian Christmas and the Easter became very very important dates for the Christian, as you all know, from the 4th century onwards only. Like the Christian Jesus Christ birth, 25th December celebrated every year. They replace also old pre-Roman festivals. So in this way, they that church became the main institution to control the villages in that time. Even pilgrimage was become a very important part of the Christian life, and every Christian tried to visit the Jerusalem or other sacred places for the Christian religion. Now we'll talk about the second state, the nobility, right? we'll we will talk about the second state now. The priests, priests place them in the first order. Okay, and nobles in the second. So nobility means that the big landowners, and they had the central role, as you all know, that for the social progress or processes. So this kind of controlling system, that means from priest to the nobles to the peasant, this kind of controlling system or the chain system actually was known as the vassal system. Actually, king of the France, were linked to the people through the vassalage. That means that the vassalage of the king was the vassalage of the king. This kind of vassalage system actually Germanic people practice in their life in their own area, because as you all know that the peoples of the England were belong to the tribal people, tribal German people. They were known as the Angel Saxona. They came here, they fought here, and they captured this country. And after that, this country was known as that England. So these tribes or these rituals or the customs, they were practiced already. Okay, now the big landowners or the nobles were the vessels of the king. Okay, now even so peasants were the vessels of the landowners. Even the nobleman accepted the king as his seigneur. Seigneur means senior, and through a mutual promise. Okay, that he would abide by the rules and regulations of the lord or the senior. So in this way, peasants also, you know, were considered as the vessels of the landowners and through a mutual promise. So their relationship actually involved elaborate rituals, and they took the vow taken on the Bibles in the church. So during this ceremony, the vessels receive a written charter. Later on, they receive the written charter and even cloth of earth as a symbol of the land that was given to him. Okay, and Nobel enjoys the, as you all know, that privileged status, and he had the absolute control over the lands, which is not acquire, not on his own property, but the whole villages he controlled, and he could raise the troops, he could levy the taxes, and sometimes during the warfare times, nobles were bounded, to supply the armies. Okay, now. We will talk about the manorial estate. The lord or the landowner houses, landowners, were living in the manorial houses. He also controlled the several thousand villages, sometimes thousand villages, sometimes 500 villages. So this whole area was known as the manorial estates, where the hundreds of villages were there, even the palaces of the palaces, church, and ports, everything, and they could, and they levied the taxes. Even almost everything needed for a daily life was found on the estate. Grain was grown in the fields, blacksmith, carpenter maintained, lords implements and repair his weapons, or to clean the houses. Even women spoon and woof the fabrics, children's work in the, lord's wine process. So in this way, the manorial estate, every people was engaged by the landowners. And from 13th century, some castles were made bigger. Castles means that fort, you can say. The some castles were made bigger for use as a residence for the knights family. Knights means the warrior class. Okay, who were trained and always ready to fight against the enemy of the king. So in that way, the manorial estate was controlled by the landowners. Now we will talk about the knights. From the 9th century onwards, there were frequent problems were created in the manorial houses. Battles or the little bit of war. Peasant soldiers. So peasants also were involved, or were also serving as the soldiers in the king's army. And so peasant soldiers and landowners saw that peasant soldiers were not sufficient, so they needed the good cavalry army. Good cavalry means horse riding army. So that's why the importance was growing for the new section of the people. So this new section of the people was known as the knight. Actually, they were very much trained, and they were linked to the lords and linked to the king also. Lord gave the knights a piece of land. Okay, so that they could survive their life. Sometimes, that. Extend the land between 1000 to 2000 acre or more, including a house for the knights and his families. That means knights actually included in the second estate, and they were very much trained, and they were always engaged in the trainings, and they were ready for the war, for the landowners and for the kings also. In the France, from the 12th century onwards, ministers travels, from minstrels travels from manor to manors, and singing song that about the stories, like partly historicals, partly invented about the kings and the knights. Okay, knights became very very important parts, and as we all know that they were always engaged during the warfare activities, and the knights included as the knight included as that the second estate in that time. They enjoyed the privileged life like the nobility. Okay, now we will talk about the peasantry, the third order. As we all know that the third order, the vast majority of the people actually who sustain the first two orders, you can say the cultivators, they were known as the third order, or you can say the peasants, peasantry. Though the cultivators were two kind of free peasants and the serf. Free peasant means you have your own land, you can cultivate in your own land, but you have to do work under the leadership of the landowners. And serf means you are totally that considered as a slave. So free peasant held their farms, Okay, and the men had to render the military services at least for 3 years or the 4 years for the landowners, as you all know. Okay, and peasant families, had to set aside the certain dates of the week, usually three, usually three, but often more, when they would go to the lord's houses and work there without free of cost, right? Even here, there they could labor services, digging ditches, gathering firewood, building fences, okay, repairing roads and buildings. So that kind of things they had to do, in their lord's houses. And coming to the serf cultivated, plots of land, but they belong to the lord. They were not free, and they had to stay there, and whatever landowner would tell, they had to mention this. Even Lord claim that number of monopolies at the expense of his serfs. Serf could use only their lord's mill to grind. Therefore, that means they had no permission to go to the outside. Without the permission of the lord, they couldn't do anything. Even they had to do work in the lord's mills, even his wine press mill, or whatever you can say. And lord could decide whom a serf should marry or not, or might give his blessing to the serf choice, but on payment of a fee. That means without fee they had to do work. Understood? So these are the basic divisions: first state, second state, and it's very very important. And then next day we'll get to know that what was the factor affecting that social and economical relations in the European, like the environment, as you all know, land uses, agriculture, technology, and urbanization. So here in this video lesson I am trying to give you the concept regarding the three orders: first state, second state, and the third state. So next day I will upload the video, and I will try to complete these video lessons the next day. Followed, I hope you have understood regarding the third state, first state, and second state, and how the concept came. Okay, so if you have any queries or the question, you can ask me. Thank you very much. So I'm ending this video.